Hey, hello there. Firebrand Astrology, Tarot, and Healing here. It's my first video in quite a while. I may start doing my weekly astrology um, tarot readings as well. So, just to let you know about that. This is a video about spirituality and politics, and more specifically, spirituality and Donald Trump. Now, I have mentioned this a few times in a few of my videos around this sense that there are or is a significant faction within the spiritual community in terms of people who aren't necessarily Christian, Muslim, Catholic, Jewish, Hindu, etc., but people who are like, crystal healers, tarot readers, psychics, astrologers, etc., of them being almost evangelical in nature in terms of how some of these right-wing homophobic evangelical preachers are, all hell, damn fire, and all of that. And this has in the past been mainly around vegetarianism and veganism, but increasingly it is like the Quanon or whatever they're called, the people who are kind of against this evil Zionist cult of paedophiles. And with COVID as well, a lot of these spiritual people are aligning themselves with fascists and Nazis in terms of being anti-government and anti-government control in regards to COVID virus and mask wearing and vaccinations and all of this. I find it deeply troubling as a gay man who is spiritual and has a sense of spirituality about him. I find it deeply troubling, deeply concerning, because spirituality for me isn't about that. It is about compassion, empathy, understanding, care, consideration, love, and all of that. It is about, for me, about ensuring there's equality and justice and humanity on the planet, ensuring that that people aren't putting themselves above each other because of their gender identity, because of their sexual orientation, because of the colour of their skin, moving away from a white, male, heterosexual, cisgendered, dominated power structure on this planet. It's about moving away from that in terms of healing the planet. We have to remember that a majority of the world's conflicts has been started by white, male, cisgendered, heterosexual people. We have to remember that a majority of the world's worst atrocities have been perpetrated by white people against ethnic minority groups and sexual minority groups as well. Hitler's Germany and stuff like that. Now, I can't understand how anybody who calls themselves spiritual believes in Donald Trump as being the Messiah and the saviour of the planet. He is a billionaire. He came from a very privileged background. In his term as president, which has ended, thank God, he has installed people on the Supreme Court who are against equality for women, equality for gay people, equality for ethnic minorities. He has put children in cages. He was going to put a wall up between America and Mexico. Now, spiritual people claim to be free from fear, free from that kind of energy. Now, putting a wall up against yourself and between two things isn't not coming from fear. It is completely fear-based. Fear-based, okay? Now, his recent High Court, his Supreme Court Justice, who was expedited very quickly into her role, is against equality for women, and she is a woman, and she is vehemently homophobic. Trump banned transgendered people from being in the armed forces. None of this is from the light. None of this is from a place of love, of compassion, of empathy. All right, Joe Biden isn't really ideal, but he's a lot better than Donald Trump. However, this is really concerning in terms of spirituality. Are we going to be really going to get to a place where, when we do eventually get to ascending completely, that our new world is going to be based on those values of certain people being worth more than others, of I don't know. I can give you an example of something. There was a gay guy who is all over Facebook with his videos around spirituality and healing and all of this, who was talking about paedophiles, and then he suddenly wasn't gay anymore, and he started saying that gay men were paedophiles and that the LGBT community is a front for paedophilia and stuff like that. This is and he's a Latino as well, so this is it's troubling. I find it difficult to understand. I really do. However, I'm very clear about my spiritual values. I'm really, really, really clear about my beliefs in regards to that. I do not at all feel it's spiritual in any way, shape or form. And I feel very strongly that in the spiritual community, we need to call this out. We cannot be sitting on the fence going, oh, well, let's agree to disagree. You can say, oh, let's agree to disagree if you have the privilege of not being in a minority group, either a sexual minority group, a racial minority group, a religious minority group, and in some respects, a gender identity group, in some respects, a gender group, to a lesser degree. You're not in one of those groups, so it's okay for you to say, well, let's agree to disagree, because it's not your rights that are being taken away. When your rights are being taken away, or your rights are being blocked, or anything like that, it is an energy about it that has energy. Okay, you might say, well, you just live your life how you want to. Well, it's not that easy, is it? Because what's the next step on from that? Yeah, if we're not mindful. So we need to be, as a spiritual community, calling this bullshit out. Why do you need to have guns? Why do you need to have assault weapons? Why do you need to have, something that can kill 50 people in 10 minutes and be spiritual? That isn't congruent in any way, shape or form. It's not congruent to spiritual values, and would Jesus put a wall up against another country? Would Jesus put children into cages? No. Jesus was the son of two asylum seekers, two people, Mary and Joseph, fleeing a despotic king that wanted to commit an act of genocide, and they flew that country, and Jesus hung around with beggars, thieves, sex workers and lepers, the outcasts of the day. He didn't judge them, He didn't turn around and say they should have less rights. And Jesus threw the bankers out of the temples and said it's easier for a camel to pass through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. So Jesus was a progressive, he was a socialist, and he was definitely equality minded and not against people, so there you go.